Hello, I'm Dr. Trina Harlow, an assistant professor of art education at the University of Central Arkansas and the founder of Online Art Teachers K-12. I serve this organization with a wonderful group of team leaders. Together, we are a team that helps lead this service project by art teachers for art teachers in uncertain times. We started out as a Facebook group, but we are now much more than a social media group. We have a web page, a Google folder of resources, have held conferences, and have provided other resources and events. OATK12 is advocating for the art teacher. I'd like to visit with you a little bit about this word, advocacy. As the pandemic began to affect education, and art education to be specific, immediately I became concerned for how art education would survive the move to remote and hybrid teaching. As art educators, we know that oftentimes art can be seen as the expendable content area in our schools. It's a reality we live with. As art educators, we also know, however, that in and through art education, we develop creative thinkers. Those creative thinkers that are so desperately needed in holistic education. On that morning of March 11th, as I found myself being concerned for my fellow art teachers and helping them maneuver through pandemic teaching, I also became immediately concerned for how school art would fare or survive these challenging times. I knew that supplies would be an issue for hybrid and remote teaching, and that the necessity to provide these supplies might cause some school administrators to postpone art classes. I knew we needed to help teachers have a plan to get supplies in the hands of their students. I knew that not all art curriculum could be immediately adapted for hybrid or remote instruction, and knew our teachers needed help to make this transition. I knew that many of our art teachers would need assistance on using technology to teach art to the remote learner. I also knew that teachers would need counseling, mentoring, and a safe space to just figure out their new teaching normal. I have been touched by the results of the focus that we made to promote teacher self-care and how teachers have expressed their appreciation to us for reminding them to turn their devices off on the weekends and refresh and renew. I was also concerned that as a school administrator made plans for the delivery of education to their hybrid and remote learners, that some of them who might not fully understand art might begin cutting programs. And we saw exactly that in OAT. We saw posts from art teachers being pulled to teach kindergarten or first grade. We saw posts from teachers saying they were furloughed. We saw posts from other art teachers who had been asked to teach art with no supplies but a pencil and paper. And sadly, we saw posts from some art teachers whose schools did cut the art program. We read in the news of entire school districts, which is one large urban city, who canceled all visual art classes immediately. We will never fully know the extent of how OAT has helped art education. We will never know what pandemic teaching may have been like without OAT for art teachers that are a member. Yet one thing that we most assuredly know is that OAT made a tremendous difference in our art teachers' abilities to continue teaching art and to transition to remote and hybrid instruction. We made a difference and continue to make a difference in our members' well-being as teaching professionals. During this last year, it has almost been exactly a year. We saw countless posts and comments from teachers saying OAT saved their lives this past year and using those exact words. Many members said they did not know what they would have done without OAT. We saw other posts of teachers saying that they did not feel alone during pandemic teaching because of OAT. I have compared several times living and teaching during this pandemic and social distancing period to being similar to Tom Hanks' character in the movie Castaway, and how he survived on the island with his only friend, a soccer ball named Wilson. Yet with support groups like OAT, like Naea, like our state chapters and regional leadership, we were not alone with only a soccer ball. We have been surrounded by supporting, giving, selfless, sharing colleagues, many of whom we will never know in real life. I think the thing that I am the proudest of is that by OAT advocating for the art teacher, we also advocated for the student, the school, the district, the community, art education, and humanity during these most challenging of times. We have made a difference, and that was our goal. And through it all, we kept our focus on the mission of OAT, a service project by art teachers for art teachers in uncertain times. We've done social media differently. We created a professional workspace in a digital media that is often known for not being professional. And we were there for each other all day, all evening, all week, all month, and every month since March 11th of 2020. We helped creativity transform and be a vital part of pandemic education. I close with this quote by Maya Angelou, a famous American poet and author. You cannot use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. It's the same with OAT. The more our members give, the more our members have. Thank you for supporting your fellow teachers during this time.
Hello, NAEA. Bob Reeker from Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm one of the co-directors of OATK12. Undergrad programs often emphasize the need for relationships. We know that if you have strong relationships with learners and families, it can really help to improve learning and teaching. It can also promote stronger interactions as well as help you through those really difficult times when relationships are strained. We also know that relationships are key with our colleagues because it helps to build a healthy working environment. Ever since OATK12 was founded on March 11th, 2020, we've promoted healthy relationships as well. We established those professional expectations for our page so that everyone was on the same page and we would build those strong bonds, those strong relationships with one another. This also is part of relationships that I have with my fellow team leaders of OATK12. Dr. Trina Harlow, who is our founder and my co-director, as well as the 9 team leaders, those being Sarah, Randy, and Kate, who were with us from the very beginning, as well as our new additions of Holly, Jane, Danny, Christine, Caitlin, and Evan. I thank them so much for all they've done to contribute to OATK12, and I'm especially thankful for their collegiality and the strong relationships I have with them. You know, when this pandemic started and we were expected to continue teaching, many of us were pulled away from our classrooms, from our colleagues, from our learners, and that face-to-face was gone. And it still continues for many of us today. But thankfully, OATK12 has helped to fill some of that void, some of that relationship void, because we're there for one another. So I'm thankful for OATK12. I'm thankful for all of you, and I'm most thankful for the relationships that I've built along the way in the last year or so. The painting behind me here is reflective of the relationships with my students. Over the last few years, I've collected the many notes that include the hearts that students give me. And as an elementary teacher, you know, if you are one, how those hearts come to you every single day. So continue to build those relationships on OATK12 and turn to one another for support.
Hi, I want to talk to you about how online art teachers K through 12 makes me think about the word growth. I mean, I actually think that a lot of teachers are growing over this time because you're taking what we once knew as art education and turning it into something completely brand new. I believe that online art teachers K through 12 has been an integral part of me transforming my teaching into something new and evolving. I'm using all sorts of different apps and concepts that I was not using in the regular classroom, but I feel what I'm using now is effective towards the students so that they can have a fulfilling and rewarding experience. I was really worried that when everything started, I wasn't going to be able to teach in an effective way, but now using things like Google Draw, Pear Deck, creating the Bitmoji classroom, trying out new types of lessons like the color wheel challenge, having the students using things at home in order to create their art, things that weren't as accessible before because, when we're at school, we're able to provide a certain amount of things, but when they're at home, they have another type of supply set that we're not accustomed to. So it's really just taking what we have and then turning it into something that works, something that flows, something that creates a routine. And I really am thankful for K through 12 because having the ability to look and find resources whenever you need them, but also the idea that there are people out there who have so many inspiring and great things to try. It's just wonderful. That's the only way to put it. But overall, I really do think that I've shown a lot of growth with how I want to teach, how I want to be effective, how I want to be able to help other art teachers grow in their practices as well. So yeah, think about growth and OAT K through 12.
Hello, my name is Sarah Ackerman, and I am both a proud member of OATK12 and Naea. And when I think about this incredible social media group, the word generosity comes immediately to my mind. From the beginning of this group, we bore witness to the incredible generosity of its members. From lesson plans to choice boards to contemporary and historical references, one only needs to spend a little bit of time in our topics tab to see the incredible collection of group curated resources and lessons available to OATK12 members by OATK12 members. This, in combination with our group Google folder available via the social media page, as well as online artteachers.com, it's amazing to me just how generous folks have been in sharing their curricular goals, materials, all with one another and for the good of students all around the world, really. And this reminds me of those first couple of state and national conferences I attended as an art ed major many moons ago. And I would often pop into those good old lesson plan chairs. You would walk around a big space collecting hard copies of shared lesson plans. And that was really exciting as a young art educator. And I know I'm dating myself with that story, but we've come such a long way because of technology. And it's not only so much easier to share, but also more fulfilling. I've seen members circle back and thank those on the social media page that contributed those original lessons, ideas, and resources, and fostered amazing conversation right there in the page on how they brought that particular lesson to life in their context. And I can tell that this really warms the hearts of the folks generously taking the time to donate to our collective knowledge base. I'm hopeful that even beyond pandemic days, when we can finally be in a sense of normalcy once again, that we continue to openly and generously share with one another. You guys inspire me daily. Thank you so much for your generosity.
Hello, my name is Randy Robart, coming to you from beautiful Northeast Ohio. I'd like to take a few moments to speak with you about the word support. I'd like to start with a story from my own classroom. Every year I taught 6th grade, I would introduce the concept of a group critique. Students would write 3 positive statements to place on their classmates' artwork with no repeats of other comments allowed and no commenting on one's own work. Once students understood these simple rules, they began moving about the room, looking and thinking about their peers' work in a positive light. When all were finished and students back in their seats, I passed back their artwork and the comments. Students were thrilled to read what their peers had to say, oftentimes holding up their art and reading the comments out aloud. Such support meant the world to them, coming from their peers. Such a simple way it seemed to me to build support from within and excitement for future endeavors, always ending with smiles all around. In our teaching world, we do tend quite often to be alone as a department. There isn't a classroom of peers for any of us just waiting with 3 or so positive statements about our teaching practices. And it's never seemed truer than when COVID hit last March and we all began a frenzied attempt to deal with our own situations as best we could, most often alone, isolated, frustrated. And then OATK12 began, a Facebook group by our teachers, for our teachers, a support system bar none. It seemed to me to be a place of support no matter what the topic. All one needed to do after joining is post a question, and within a very short time, usually minutes, responses appear. With that, let me share such OATK12 support stories, which are a little more personal in nature. You know, when we've felt like we're on our last leg, out on a limb, at wit's end, at the end of our rope. The type of aloneness when one just doesn't know what to do or to whom to turn. All this can be called many things, but no matter the name, it's a devastating feeling and one with which we can all empathize. I'm feeling so disappointed and hated was such a post from this past fall with a member explaining the specifics and ending with, feeling very low and need to get this off my chest. The outpour of sub-posts offering support came fast and furious. Within 4 hours, there were 240 sub-posts with more that followed. Here's just a few. I feel the same way. Time to power up and take our classes back, Wonder Woman style. Know that it's not personal, even though the comments are directed at you. Know that we support you and this too shall pass. I think you're amazing. Get yourself a yummy coffee drink and smile. Keep thinking of June. Keep going. Try not to take it personally. It's just difficult right now. Prayers for your strength. Hang in there, hon. This is one of those years where you just have to do what you have to do, and prayers for your strength. Everything else, remember, is secondary. Wow. I will tell you, these sentiments make my heart sing for the caring and compassion our members show each other when times get really tough. And members' hurt is strikingly evident. These are but a few of the support posts and sub-posts made since this group's early beginning in March of 2020. And in this group, what we can always count on, understanding, camaraderie, and support. We may not always agree, but we are never alone. Somewhere, somehow, there will always be someone who understands our particular plight completely and be willing with heartfelt care to share their own words of support. And isn't this just like my 6th graders and their critique comments? You bet. There's a quote in a book titled How to Be Resilient by Anna Barnes I would like to leave you with. It states, "Your support network is the solid ground from which you can propel yourself upwards." This is how I feel about OATK12 and its members. This is your support network, and together we form the solid ground for our upward journey through this COVID ordeal. Together, we will find our way. Remember, you shine your light brightly in the darkness for students, colleagues, community, and all to see. So, keep on, keep the faith. Know your struggles are real and that each of you makes a difference, not only in your own lives, but those of others as well. Your kindness may just be someone else's lifesaver.
Hi, my name is Kate Miller, and I'm here to talk to you today about the Online Art Teachers K-12. The group is something that I'm very passionate about, and you have probably seen me talking to you via the group on Facebook. You will see that I'm not currently in person, and that is simply because my rotator cuff got torn when we needed to get the videos recorded, and I was not comfortable showing what I currently look like. But these are a couple of views of my classroom as it was. It doesn't look like this right now due to COVID. And speaking of COVID, the reason that we all came together and really created something great, when Trina decided that she was going to create this service project and really could see that it was going to be a strong need for art teachers across the world, she really kind of, quote unquote, got it. And it has really been a saving grace to most of us. So just to let you see me, there is the professional me photo from school, and then there is the me outside photo at school. So I tend to be a little bit of a cut up and a rug, and really enjoy working with kids. And creativity is something I'm extremely passionate about. As a matter of fact, I've given several talks for the Kansas Art Education Association on the subject in teaching creativity. This is Norbert. Norbert is my gnome, and he's one of my creativity lessons. If you happen to follow me on Twitter, you have probably seen some of Norbert's antics. So I do a lot of projects that I consider to be very creative. It pushes boundaries of art. It pushes students in new directions. And I really enjoy doing that to see where their creativity takes them and using different supplies to create and make. When COVID hit, it was a whole new beast. My district changed the way the specials were being taught. We weren't necessarily looked at as a priority the time, which in the grand scheme of life, I understand where they were coming from. That doesn't mean it didn't hurt, because I can tell you that my district is very passionate about the needs for the arts in education. And so I feel very lucky to be part of that. But it was like the dark side hit. And it was kind of this weird new balance. But we had OAT. And the nice thing about having OAT is we had each other. There is something to be said. Anybody who has ever attended an art conference or art seminars, when you're around other art teachers, the amount of creativity that flows out of that is incredible. And when you can feel stressed and overwhelmed, you sometimes don't know what to do. It can be tough. Your own anxieties, your own issues come up, and you're just not quite sure how to move forward. And that has been the great thing about OAT and the caring and sharing that has gone on. So I'm going to share some of the projects that you guys inspired or I created myself. I apologize for not being able to give credit because it's been a while and I honestly don't remember. But simple projects, things that kids might have at home, paper, being able to make that 3-dimensional pop out of a house. Fall and Halloween are big in my town. And so we definitely played upon that with that time. I have been in person. I have been remote. We have not done a hybrid model. I have kids like many of you who have gone in and out of a remote status. And so trying to figure out lessons that they could have using virtually nothing has been an interesting task. And so doing things inspired by you guys, like going outside and finding different lines in nature, using Seesaw to create a lesson with their geometric shapes. And here you're making an own person. Pulling out their creativity and giving them a prompt and seeing what they create. And then still keeping with some of the things that I've always done that they asked to do that are kind of pet projects of mine, like designing a marionette. And I think one of the best things about creativity and one of the most awesome things about OAT is also showing what you can do as an artist and pushing your creative limits. Creating lessons does that. Taking lessons from others and expanding on your own does that. Pushing your own creativity, I assure you, will push the creativity of your students. This was actually a lesson I modified a couple years ago, maybe, from another art teacher on shadows. So it also pushed me to be a little more creative and thinking outside the box. And I started creating my own kind of handouts for lessons that I've been trying to share to OAT as I draw them and create them, because I want to be able to give back to all the wonderful teachers out there who have given back to me. And while some might be the most creative out there and some may not, that's okay. We just keep learning, we keep growing, and we keep sharing. But thank you for being part of this amazing service project. Thank you for giving back. Thank you for sharing your creative mind and inspiring others to be creative as well.
Hello, my name is Christine Wellman, and I am a visual art teacher here in Bermuda at the Berkeley Institute. I've been teaching for 37 years, but back in March 2020, I was thrown back to feeling as though I was in the classroom for the very first time. What caused that? COVID-19. At our school, we've been talking casually about the integration of technology into the classroom. That could deal with playing music, using photography, using the Elmo, working with the LED projector, printers, any manner of things that would be electronic. But nothing could have prepared me for what massive transformation we had to go through in March 2020 with COVID-19. A massive transformation from working hands-on with our children, direct instruction, face-to-face, to a heavy dependency on technology. So I had to sharpen my saw. I needed some new tools. I was on a search for something that was relevant, something that was modern, something that would continue to spark engagement in the children that I was teaching remotely. And my search led me to OATK12. My need for resources was found in the posts that other teachers put on OATK12. And I was able to, I don't need a whole lot, Seesaw, Google Draw, Mentimeter, the list is endless really. But in my case, I didn't need to engage in a whole list of resources simply because I needed to learn and be able to apply what I was learning to my classroom. So if I had to think about anything at all that I was able to get from the online Teachers Helping Teachers OATK12 group, it would be resources.
Hi everybody, I'm Jane Montero, and I just wanted to share with you how much joy I've found and true innovation that's come my way as a result of being a member of the OATK12 group. I began my membership back in March, and I was just immediately drawn to this group of people for their support, for their joy, for their efforts, and I just jumped right in. And as many of you know, you've probably seen a lot of my posts. I really believe that the key idea for me is to innovate. And in fact, I looked up the word innovate to find out what Merriam-Webster dictionary says about it. And what Merriam-Webster says is to innovate means to make changes in something established, especially introducing new methods, ideas, or products. We've all had to do this. We have all had to learn to adapt. We've all had to really become great innovators. So I just wanted to share that with you. And again, I've loved my membership, and I look forward to continuing to see what you all have innovated yourselves. Thanks.
Well, wait a minute. Did you say 3, 2, 1 action
Even
yet?
when he tries to take over.
I take over because I'm the man.
Generated image, CGI, he still thinks he's a person and he wants to take over
yeah, I'm
my
a
life.
person.
He wants to try to control me.
One day your dreams will have secrets.
I created him. What is he? What is
Come on,
he?
man. Stop the video. Are there people in the
My word
house?
is joy, and I believe that joy is a choice. I can choose to have a positive mindset in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of this virtual learning experience. What do you think? What's your definition of joy?
Well, I'm glad you asked, man. Joy is not based on my emotions, because my emotions go up and down. Joy is consistent. You dig?
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good definition. And if you guys don't know, this is the animated character that I created on my computer. His name is Levon, and sometimes he likes to take over.
Oh, would you give me a break?
He's a good guy. He's my muse. If I was a kid living during this pandemic, I would want my teacher to have some type of excitement or a positive mindset, and troubleshoot, problem solve, dance, play music. Think of a technology lesson where I'm using technology all the time. So how can I incorporate the elements and principles of art to grab my attention? Who's Picasso? Who's Jacob Lawrence? Who's
Blah, blah, blah. Kids want to see me. They want to see video game characters like me. They want to see CGI. The art landscape is changing, and the teachers got to get with it, man. You got to teach with joy. And joy makes everything beautiful. You dig?
Philip Simmons. Why do I need to know about this artist? But if the joy is there, it reaches and grabs the attention of that student and makes them and engages them to want to know more about this artist. I don't know about you, Levon. I thought we did pretty well. What do you think?
Well, I think I was the star of this whole video. It's because nobody really wants to see you.
Well,
they came to see me, man. Let's
day,
just get that
we want you
straight.
guys to
They
choose
came to
joy.
see.
I am grateful for the OATK12 community that was formed last March 2020. The community joining forces of 19,000 plus educators has been such a powerful resource to myself and other educators from around the world. That community has made sure that creativity was not canceled for so many students. The COVID closures have been a traumatic event for all of us and our students. And now more than ever, art can be a way of healing, of allowing students to have that visual voice to express all of the things that they are facing in these unsettling times. I am thankful for the community that shares willingly, that is open to mentoring other educators, to making those connections, to making sure that they are supporting the goals of art education for our students. We are meeting the needs of our students, whether it's virtually, hybrid, or in person. We've all felt a little bit like that first year teacher again, with so many unknowns and so many questions. But together, the power of the community can brainstorm solutions and ideas. Technology tips and resources, lesson ideas, all of that goes together to help so many students around the country and around the world. And I think that's really, truly the power in forming a professional learning network, whether it's through NAEA, our state organizations, or online art teachers group K12 on Facebook. Together, we join forces. We make sure that our students have opportunities to express their own visual voice. I am so thankful for this community. I hope that others can find the encouragement and the support they need to help their own students and move forward. And I challenge so many teachers who are listening now, if you haven't joined, please join us. Share your successful lessons and resources with others. There will be so many students who will be somewhere out in the world saying Thank you.
As I stand here on a cold, snowy, and blustery day in Lincoln, Nebraska, my thoughts turn to OATK12. My work over this last year, alongside Dr. Trina Harlow, our founder and co-director, as well as the amazing 9 team leaders that work diligently every single day, is about how our group work really warms my soul, it warms my heart, it warms my brain, because we're working as a team. We're working together during uncertain times to support one another in the most difficult of teaching situations. So I join you today as a thank you. Thank you to the leadership as part of this group, but most importantly, thank you to all of you, the 19,000 plus members who join us daily to support one another in order to make learning better for those that are in the most difficult of learning and teaching situations. So my hat off to you, and thank you so much for the great work that you do every single day in support of learners through art education.
OATK12, I have drank a lot of coffee with you this year. I've gone on a lot of walks with you this year. I spent a lot of time in bed with you. I just want to say thank you to all of you online art teachers, K-12 group members. And I want to say thank you to our team leaders who have been with us during this past year, working together in this service project by art teachers for art teachers in uncertain times. We have really made a difference together in art education. And by helping each other, we have helped uncountable hundreds of thousands of children and adolescents, colleagues in our schools and communities. We've helped art education across the United States and around the world. I will be forever thankful that I spent the last year during a very challenging time for education with you. You're wonderful, and I'm so thankful for all of you and for all we have been through together and all we've worked together on for the good of art education. One more thank you. I'm on the campus of the University of Central Arkansas, where I'm an assistant professor of art education, and you can see my classroom right up there on the 3rd floor of that beautiful building. And I'll say thank you one more time. I'm standing here with the Black Bear, UCA's mascot. Thanks again. I just want to say thank you one more time